Hi everyone and welcome. Today's webinar is Making End User Reporting Simple with Power BI and SharePoint. And today's speaker is Jared Edge, Director of SharePoint Services. Usually we have time for questions at the end. However, Jared has a lot of really helpful demos to get through today. But at the end, I'll provide my email address and you can reach out with any questions that you have. We'll make sure to get an answer for you. After we're done today, I'll send you the recording of the webinar, and without further ado, I'll let Jared go ahead and get started.
Hi everyone and welcome. I have a lot lined up for today, so we tried to lay it out in a way that would make a lot of sense to everyone. So just kind of bear with us as we get to it and start going through it. Here's our agenda for today. So we're going to do a little bit of talking up front to kind of overview what Power BI is and some related concepts to it, but also to talk about the different versions of Power BI that are out there and kind of just maybe give a few tips about, point you in the right direction for what you should be looking for out of your Power BI environment. So we'll take a look first at Power BI Online. I'll take you up there to kind of see maybe a finished product of what could be done. And then we'll go back, and the core of what we're going to talk about is the steps to start from scratch to go all the way up to the point where you have a Power BI report or dashboard sitting out there online, or even on a SharePoint site or some other place. So I want to be able to take you through that whole process, which is why we're not really taking any questions today, because we want to be able to make it through that entire process. It's a lot of steps. So again, we'll be talking about Power BI Online, then we'll move over to Power BI Desktop. We'll go through importing data, transforming data using M. We'll look at visualizations. We'll get into publishing up to Power BI Online. And then we'll create some dashboards. And then also I want to kind of just briefly talk about insights. And then again, we'll wrap back around to see those final products again and just talk about all the different things that Power BI can do. So again, that's a lot to cover in this hour session, but we will try to make it through. All right. So there are really two Power BIs if you think about it. There's one Power BI Online, which if you have an Office 365 account, you have Power BI Online available to you as part of the licensing that you have, so you're good to go. Now, I'll just say up front that I'm not the person to talk to about licensing for these things, because really you have a Lars who's responsible for those things, and trying to figure out where the licensing points are for Power BI and Power BI Pro, and then embedded and Power BI server, report server, trying to figure out all that stuff is a little bit hard. It's better for you just to ask the person you're going to be paying and let them tell you the exact amount that you're going to be paying, and then you'll know exactly. So that's always available to you. However, I will say that there's Power BI Online, which we'll take a look at, and within that there's kind of a Power BI Basic, if you will, and then Power BI Pro. Those are the two things that people commonly talk about. And just to throw this out there, and again, I don't want to talk too much about licensing, but not everyone would need a Power BI Pro license. You could have just the key people who need it have that license, and everybody else have the Power BI Online. If you are interested in figuring out what is the difference between normal Power BI and Power BI Pro, the licensing for those, just go look it up at powerbi.com or powerbi.microsoft.com. Go there. Their homepage has all that information in there. It talks about licensing, shows you the differences between the models and all those different things as well. The one thing I do want to say, though, is if you have an on-prem SQL Server Reporting Services enterprise license, you likely have licensing already for Power BI Report Server. That's an on-prem version of Power BI. It sits on top of SQL Server Reporting Services, and it has tons and tons of functionality. It's on-prem, so it's kind of, you can keep it behind your firewall if you need to. I mean, special stuff there. So do not disregard that. It has been an option for a few of our clients. It's absolutely good stuff. Works the same. Not to mention that the teams that are working on both those products are actually conscious of each other, so they're working together, and they are sending out, what they're trying to do is, I think, get to a place where Power BI Report Server and Power BI Online really have all the exact same functionality. Okay, and as we go through, I'll talk about just a few differences, just the ones that I need to key in on for today. But if you are interested in Power BI Report Server, or if you have it and you have not done the May update for that, you want to do that May update. There's a lot of good stuff in there. If you just go read the blog, tons of upgrades inside of there to bring it closer to the Power BI Online functionality, and then they're also trying to take the Power BI functionality, Power BI Online functionality, and make it closer to what the report server can do. So really significant items there. Definitely check out the May update. There's probably an update every month. There's a June update out there as well, but May was the big one for Power BI Report Server. So there are these two things out there. What Power BI does, though, is allow you to do self-service reporting. You know, that's what we're looking for. You know, we have users out there who know that there's some data and they want to consume that data in the way that they want to consume it. So one of our problems when we were doing, say, SQL Server reporting services is we were all creating the reports for our consumers, and then our consumers really were just looking at the reports that we gave them. And there is a way to do end-user reporting inside of SQL Server reporting services as well. It just wasn't that great. So Power BI is like a huge step above that, you know, to be able to say, here's some data sets that are available for you. I've even created some reports here for you, but if you have permissions, you can go in and actually create more reports based on my data set in the same way that I did. And it's super simple, easy to use, as you're going to see as I go through my demos today, how easy it is. And it's just a great end user reporting tool where they can slice up their data, get their data all done. And then all of a sudden after that, well, I'm just I'm not a report builder. I don't know how to build reports, but I know that I want to see a dashboard every morning when I walk in and get the information. So I can pick and choose from your reports and create my own dashboard as well. That's significant. These are big things. Not to mention that I can show this anywhere, and we're going to talk about that in just a second. But I want you all to know before I forget to say it, that there is a Power BI app for your phones as well. So every morning I go and I open up my Power BI app to look at my reports to see what's going on there. Now my reports are just Jared reports. But I do like to know, how many outstanding this, that, and the others we have, and those types of things. So I get that report right there in my Power BI app every morning when I look at it. It's just awesome. So having said all of that, let's talk about the process, okay? And then let's talk about the process one more time, and then let's actually get into some demos, okay? So here we go. So the process at a 1,000-foot view is basically this. You're going to need Power BI Desktop. So a person who really wants to create robust reports and take advantage of all the functionality, and also be able to have a wide range of data sources that you can choose from, is going to use Power BI Desktop. Now, Power BI Desktop is the tool that I can create my reports in, even though I can create reports in Power BI Online. So what commonly gets asked to me is, Jared, I went to Power BI Online, and I started trying to create a report, but I'm missing some things. I'm missing a step here. Like, how do I get different data sources into here? And how do I get, an Oracle database into here? I'm not seeing those things in the online version. So for that, you need to go to Power BI Desktop. Power BI Desktop is free. You can download it for free. So no problems there. You can go through, connect to any data source, which I'll just talk about in a few seconds. And then you can manipulate your reports, get them all set up. And once you're finished with that, then you would upload those to Power BI Online or Power BI Report Server behind your firewall. Okay. Once that's done, then it's consumable from anyone who's online. So if they have a desktop, they can consume your report. If they have a tablet or a cell phone, they can consume your report in multiple ways. So consuming that report could be that I look at it in my app, or it could be that I'm just going to a browser and looking at it straight into the Power BI Online environment, or it could be that I have placed a report, say, on a SharePoint site or something like that, and the users can come to that SharePoint site and take a look at it from there. So you have all these multiple ways to consume those reports. So that's the basics of what you have to do. You get Power BI Desktop, create your reports. Once you're finished there, upload the data to Power BI Online or Power BI Report Server, and then people can consume it. All right, so hopefully that much makes sense, and we're good to go. Now, we talked about you could get some data from places. Well, what do you mean I can get data from places? Are you saying it's only a Microsoft source, or maybe just Excel, or maybe I can get it from SharePoint? Those are all owned by Microsoft. No, we're saying you can get data from anywhere. And when I say anywhere, I mean anywhere, whether that's on-prem data, because you can actually create connections down, basically a pipe through down to your on-prem environment, and a secure pipe so that you can communicate back and forth. But whether it's on-prem, whether it's in Excel, whether it's in a cloud storage, or whether it's an API, how many of you have Oracle? If you have Oracle, just bang your hands together. Okay, a couple of people banging their hands together. So if you have Oracle, guess what? You can get data from there. If you have SQL Server, guess what? You can get data from there. If you have SharePoint, you can get data from there. IBM, DB2, get data from there. MySQL databases, yeah, you can get it from there. Progress databases, even third-party data, if they have like an ODBC or OLADB connector, you can get it from there as well. You can get it from anywhere. And then once I grab that data, then I can go and manipulate the data. Now hold. Manipulate the data, Jared? Is that what you're saying to me? I don't know. I mean, I don't know if my DBA is going to allow me to go into SQL Server and start changing that data around, or those types of things. No, you're not manipulating the data source. You're just manipulating the data that's going to be coming to you. I'm going to talk about that and give you some examples of that, and you'll say, "Wow, Jared, that's awesome." All right, so we have all that, but I do want to mention something, because this question comes up all the time, Brittany, and people say, Jared, I want to be able to get my data, and they've given me access to the actual database server where all of our data comes in from some website or something like that. No, I don't think that's what you want to do. So what you want to do is investigate, and we don't have time to talk about it today, but investigate strategies for doing reporting. That is, I probably want to siphon some of that data off of the real data source, move that into a report database that I can then report from, because you don't want to hit those live databases. They have other jobs to do, like cater to your people who are coming to your website or something like that. Okay, you don't never want to report against. So figure out some strategies for how that's done, and maybe that's just using tools like SQL Server integration services to slowly move data over to a place where you can report on it from. Okay, so I'm sure I just helped someone out there, so you can thank me, a different day. All right, so we've got get your data from anywhere. We've got manipulate your data, right? So I'm going to show you how to do a little bit of that in just a few seconds. So we're talking about combining columns, calculating columns, like getting a count of something, or getting, what's the sum of this and the average of that, removing columns from the data source. So, they give you an Excel document that has 52 columns in it. You're reporting off of 4 of those. Just report off the 4. I don't want the other columns that are in there. I'm going to get rid of all those. Or they give you a report that has horrible names inside of it for the columns. I'm going to correct all those names so that when I'm reporting and my end users are using that to report off, they see reasonable, friendly names inside there. So we're going to make sure that happens as well. So we're going to talk about manipulating all those different things. So get your data from anywhere, manipulate your data, and then we start reporting off of it. All right. So the process there, okay? Connect to your data. So either connect to your Excel document, connect to that SQL Server, connect to that Oracle, whatever it is. Then transform your data with M. I'm going to explain what M is in just a few minutes. It's a fancy name, isn't it? You can extend that data if you want to using DAX. Okay, I probably won't show any DAX examples today, but I'll talk about it as we go through it. And then create your reports, and then publish those reports up to Power BI Online or Power BI Report Server. All right. So having said all that, let's take a look. Okay, so here I am in the Power BI Online environment, and so basically app.powerbi.com, but I think you can get there by just going to microsoft.powerbi.com or search Google for Power BI, and it'll bring you to wherever you need to go. And that the home page that they have there gives you lots of information. It gives you blogs to look at, additional small videos to talk about things. But if you are into Power BI and you're going to be using Power BI, I completely recommend that you follow their blogs, because this is in their cloud environment, and every tool that Microsoft has in their cloud environment is being altered, let's just say monthly. Okay, there are monthly updates of what they're changing in the system, so you want to be up on all those changes. Fortunately, in the Power BI world, not too often do they kind of wreck things. They just basically, go through and say, here's another enhancement, here's another enhancement, here's another enhancement, and it usually works out to your advantage versus being a minus. So, but still, keep up to date on it. PowerBI.com. Look at the blogs that are there and follow along with those. I'm here on my home page. And by the way, if you are in, say, your SharePoint environment, you could basically just click on your cog, or your that's not your cog, that's the waffle. Click on the waffle, okay, and then go down and find in your apps Power BI, and just click on it here, and that'll take you straight to where I am inside of my Power BI environment. So on my home page, it says "Good morning, Jared," and everyone likes an application that can determine morning and afternoon, so that's just a plus. And then inside of here, I could search for different things that I was working on, but I just see these are some things that I was working on over a period of time. It's looking at a retail analysis sample that I'm going to show you in just a few minutes, and it's saying, hey, here are some of the actual charts that were inside of there, and that's pretty cool. So this isn't really my dashboard that I created. This is just it guessing at some things that I might want to see and trying to help me out, just like, you know how Microsoft is. They're always helpful. They want to help us all out. Favorites is super simple. That is simply where you have favorites, different reports that you want to make sure you keep track of. And I have some where I'm the owner and some where one of my spaces is the owner, one of my workspaces is the owner of that. But I can just unstar it, and now it's not there anymore. So that's a piece of cake. You guys don't need me to tell you that. So recent things that I've worked on recently would be under there. And then I have apps. So apps, you could think of it as some company put together a really cool sales and marketing piece, or here's how you analyze HR piece, or anything like that, and they want to basically resell it to you or give it to you for free. And so you can go out and get apps, and it takes you out to a place where these models and such are already created. You can bring them down, see how they did it, and all you really need to do at that point is probably just replace the data. And once you've done that, you'd have this up and running, beautiful report system. Okay, those are just things there. I'm not going to show you any of that. I can go check to see things that are shared with me. So I have other like Power BI Pro users and such that are creating reports, and they've shared them with me by clicking on their little share button. Then I would know about them. They'd be here, and that's kind of cool. Okay, but the key here is workspaces. So when I go down to workspaces, there is they've revised this. So if you haven't revisited Power BI since like the beginning, they've revised how workspaces work. So I used to have this My Workspace, and it was just a ton of information sitting inside the one place, and I didn't really have too much control of it. But over time, they've seen the significance of it. So today, the way it works basically is I create a workspace, and I'll go down here and just click on this Create App Workspace. And I'll create a workspace, and then I can choose what I want that to be. So I can upload an image for it that's not significant. I can create a name for it that is significant, description. And then down here, I can say, hey, make this actually a template so I can use it for more often. And then further down here, I have who owns it basically. Does the admin or the workspace admin own it, or specific users kind of own it? And so I click OK, and then we're good to go. So that just creates a workspace. But what that means is basically, who am I sharing all of these specific reports together? Think of it as a giant folder, okay, where you're keeping all your reports and all the parts that go along with your reports, okay? So I'm going to click here on this one that I have just created just for you guys. The other thing, you might have seen like I had 1,000 workspaces in there. That is because at one point in time, as you were creating Office 365 groups, those Office 365 groups were being generated and also placed inside of here, getting their own workspace as well. Just one of those side effects of what they did in the past. So here I am. I've come to my workspace. My workspace says, hey, you have certain things here: dashboards, reports, workbooks, data sets, and then data flows. You can also see most of that over here as well. So data flows, I'm not going to really teach data flows today, but what I would say a data flow is you having multiple data sources out there that you need to keep track of, refine prior to getting them into this environment, so that they're kind of stabilized while you're inside this environment. What does that mean? So a better way to kind of just sum it up would say self-service data prep. Okay, so think of it as I'm preparing my data so that I can create some common data sets and then continue on up to reports and then to dashboards and such. So think of it as that. I could probably spend half a day just talking about that aspect of it. So we're not going to do that. So data sets are, you could call it sets of data, but what you're going to see is when I work on my data inside of Power BI Desktop, I'm going to actually polish it up a little bit, manipulate it, transform it, and then I'm going to publish it up to here. It's going to send up the set of data that I set aside to work on. So that is all of the tables that belong to this particular report set that I'm kind of trying to build. And so in this data set, I have sales, districts, items, stores, and time. Now, to be honest with you, districts could have come from one database, item could have come from another database, stores could have come from an Excel document. It doesn't matter where I got all those from, but when I get them to this point, I want this to reflect what's the set of data that my people can report off of, okay? So you're gonna see how I build that in just a few minutes. And then you have workbooks, think of that as just Excel workbooks. But then you have reports. So from these data sets, a person can build a report. You're gonna see me do that inside of Power BI Desktop. But I want you to know that that can be done here in Power BI Online. So if I have someone who's building things inside of Power BI Desktop, once they upload it to here, then that data set's available for me, and I can go in and just continue to build reports easily from that data set. That's what we're looking for. That's where we get into the end user consumable reports, or easy to create end user reports. Okay. From there, I might create dashboards. Now I'll come back at the end and we'll start talking about those things, and I'll start giving some examples of those. So this is what's inside of the Power BI Online portion of everything. Oh, I wanted to mention one thing. Thanks for reminding me, Brittany. Down at the bottom, we have get data. So if you click on the get data, it is possible to get your data while you're sitting here in Power BI Online. You can do that. It gives you the opportunity to import files, to import or to connect to a database, and to also manage or work with data flows. But some of these, this is very limited compared to what you can do inside of Power BI Desktop. So the place to work and polish up your data and do all of that and manipulate your data, that's in Power BI Desktop, and that's where you want to be. And then one thing I want to show you before I jump back down to Power BI Desktop is that same set of reporting that you were seeing. Once I finished with it, this is just a normal out-of-the-box SharePoint site. I generated this yesterday. I didn't do anything special to it except for edit the home page and get rid of all the stuff that was on the home page. And then I placed my Power BI report, boom, right here on the page. So now my users don't even have to go to Power BI to view a report. They can come to a SharePoint page to be able to view that report. So excellent stuff there. That's the first part of the picture. All right. So let's go talk about the second part of the picture. All right, so here I have this icon down here on my desktop, and it's for Power BI Desktop. There are two Power BI desktops, okay? And the icon for them looks the same, so if you're working with both of them, sorry. Basically, one is for Power BI Desktop or Power BI Online. The other is for Power BI Report Server. So until they can merge those two, and I'm not aware of them having done that yet, at least not since last month, I guess. And so you work with Power BI Desktop for Report Server if you want to upload information to Report Server. So it's just a different download. Once you do that inside, they're exactly the same. Okay, so it has to do with when you're connecting and uploading to a data source, or when you're going through the publish motion. That's where the real difference is, I believe. But for the most part, inside, everything I'm going to show you applies to both. All right, so you get this beautiful splash screen here. It's fancy. It's got the Hawkeye colors on it and stuff. And so you can stop that from happening if you click this. Or you can just click the Get Data button from here. Or if you don't have this splash screen anymore, you can click the Get Data button from over here. Okay, so either one of those will work for you. I'm just going to click on Get Data. Doesn't really matter. We'll wait for that to pop up. So I showed you a slide earlier that showed you all the different places you could get data from. And so that's getting ready to pop up. Takes a little while to show up, but it'll do it. There it is. Okay, so you'll see lots of different things here. Excel, CSV files, XML documents, JSON. That is awesome. So I can call an API, get back a JSON payload, and then work from that. Fantastic stuff. A folder that might have multiple documents inside of it. PDF. I don't even know how that works. Okay, but still, PDF. It's kind of like screen scraping, I guess. It can go look inside the PDF, find the data that's inside there. I don't know if that works with OCR stuff. I just don't know because I'm not going to try it. But cool. I like the fact that it's here. A SharePoint folder. But you're thinking, Jared, I don't want to get data from a SharePoint folder. I've got this beautiful list in there that has thousands of rows of information and stats and cost and product names and categories that I want to be able to pull over into here. Where's that at? That is also in here. So you can do SharePoint folders or SharePoint list. Okay, SQL Server database, we've heard of that. Access database, we've heard of that. SQL Server analysis services. So back in the beginning, truly, this worked best with two things. It worked best with Excel documents and SQL Server Analysis Services cubes and such. And it still works great with those today. So if you have been doing data analysis in the past and you're using the whole Microsoft suite, so you're using SQL Server Analysis Services over there, we're just saying now you can connect to this to do your reports instead of maybe using Report Server to do your SQL Server Reporting Services to do your report. So you have some options now, and these reports are going to look better. Okay, Oracle database, DB2 stuff. I mean, just this list is never ending. There's some crazy things inside of here, things that I've never heard inside of here. But you do have all the Azure stuff as well. So if you guys are tuned into Azure and you've been fully embracing the cloud, I should say, and you're using, say, Azure SQL Server or Azure SQL Data Warehousing or Azure Analysis Services databases or Azure Blob Storage, all those different things, you can still take advantage of them here. And that's significant, okay? Because to be able to use things like the HD Insights up there, and to be able to have those do multi-layered processing of events inside of a server farm worth of servers, you know, to be able to do all of that, grab that data, pull it all down, and analyze it really, really fast using Azure, and then be able to report on it at the end of it. Oh, that is wonderful. So there's a lot of good stuff inside of here. I'll let you guys go through it at some point in time, but I want to highlight a few things, and I don't know where they are, but let's just say Google. You guys ever heard of Google? Okay, so Google, there you go, Google Analytics. So I don't know how much you know about Spindustry, but Spindustry's been in business for 21 plus years and maybe 23 plus years, something like that. And we started out building websites, and ever since day one, and they do a lot of stuff now, digital marketing and a whole bunch of other stuff, including our SharePoint division does SharePoint. But from day one, we were telling people, hey, if you're including all this analytics in what you're doing, then you need to be reporting off those analytics also so you can see and make decisions. So what better way for my end user who understands Google Analytics can actually just connect to that super simply, have it pull over reports from Google, and now I can look at those on my dashboard every day without having to go like log into Google Analytics to do it and do all that stuff. So fantastic. I mean, just outstanding stuff. And while I've been talking, you've been looking at other stuff like Facebook and MailChimp. And so there's just some popular things out there that have data connectors that we can use. So awesome. So it splits it in the left-hand side to File, Database, Power BI, Azure, Online Services, and then our favorite category, which is Other. Okay, so there's this one up here for web. I saw a demo, just to let you know how powerful this is. I saw a demo, and I'm never going to go out and try this because I have no need to, but I saw a beautiful demo where the speaker went out to a website, and I think it was the IMDb database. He went out to their page. He found tables on that page, which is, I mean, web design tables, like, you know, table tags. He went through, found those, and the transform mechanism in here learned how to process that data based upon that table, and then he turned that into reports. So he had basically live reporting against somebody else's database. Incredible stuff. So very, very cool things to do. Now, let's go back into what we want to do. Okay, we're going to look at Excel. Okay, and while that's coming up, I'm going to just pull up this Excel document. Everyone's seen Excel before. If you're into reports, you're probably into Excel. So you've seen Excel. And I know that some of you are power users in Excel, and that's really cool. And I know that you guys know how to go in and kind of click here and filter out a column so that I could get rid of the word county here for all these. So what I have is a list that I got from the Census Bureau that gives me populations population estimates based on counties, and I thought that might be cute to show. So I have all the states in the United States except for 2. I don't know why there's 2 missing because it's weird. It's their data, not mine. But inside of here, what I see is in this name column, they have the word county after each one of these, and I didn't want that. So I know that my Excel users know how to come into here and actually filter that out and or have it split that for me based upon, you know, just saying, clicking a couple of buttons, like clicking here and saying do a text filter and so forth. So I know that you guys know how to do that. What if I told you that all the skills that you have from Excel are going to apply when you're going and working with M and working inside of Power BI Desktop? That is good. That's good for you. Okay, but what if I said that the way we're going to do it is not going to destructively read the original document? Okay, it's not going to destructively destroy any of these items that are inside the original document. So that's going to be cool. So this is the actual document under the hood that I'm using. Okay, and so you'll see this data reappear inside of Power BI in just a second. Okay, so I'm going to say I'm going to attach to it's a CSV document, so I'm going to use CSV. I'm going to go ahead and connect. I'm going to reach out and find that document, U.S. countries. All right, we're going to pull that open. So it says I'm connecting to it, which takes a couple seconds. This one has like 5,000 rows in it or something like that. Maybe 3,000 rows in it. There's like 3,000 counties in the United States or something like that. So it's bringing all that up. But even if you were bringing over a file that had like, say, 2 gig of data in it, it's not processing the entire 2 gig of data. It's not pulling in the entire 2 gig of data. It's not pulling in any of it, basically, except for this little sampling. So you'll see up here it said, give me the first 200 rows. And that's all I really want from it, because I just need to look at it for a minute and see if it's right. Right? And so it's saying, I know you're working with CSV, so is it comma delimited? Yes, it is. Well, what if it wasn't? I can make the change there, right? What's the format for it? Is it Unicode or is it non-Unicode? So it wants to see all that information. Giving me a chance to look at it, and there's a little refresh button over here in case you wanted to refresh. But I still see that I have all these odd columns in here. I don't care about the state number. I mean, I don't know if they had them. I think they have an order of alphabetical order. I don't think they have them in order that they joined the union. You know what I mean? So I don't care about the state number or the county number or the place or all these weird columns that they have. But because that's what was given to me, that's in my data source. How do I manipulate that and make sure that I don't have those columns making their way all the way up to Power BI Online after I publish? I want to get rid of all this stuff. Plus, the name column here, I need to fix that county. This county thing, I'm going to get that out of there and split that into its own column. Plus, all of these columns that are over here for the population estimates, I kind of don't like the way they have them named because they're all one word, and that's just for developers, not for regular people, right? So for my regular people who are going to be using my report once I publish it up to Power BI Online, what I want them to see is something like, you know, POP 2012, POP space 2013, POP space 2014. I want to correct all this information, again, without messing with the original document. Okay. Oh, Jared, what are you talking about, man? That's some serious stuff you're saying. So I'm going to click the edit button down here at the bottom, and it's going to pop up another product that's just inside of Power BI, if you will. Okay. So you see another window is opening up. And at the top, if you notice, it says Power Query Editor. So there's a tool called Power Query. Power Query is now opening up. So this is going to allow me to go through and add power to my query. No, it's going to go through and allow me to edit all these columns, and it's going to remember everything, because what it's really doing is creating a query for me behind the scenes that goes and queries my document or queries my data source and brings over the information the way I want it. So think about yourself being a database developer. You've worked with tables before, but you've also worked with views. So you might have a table that has these strange names and several columns and things, but then you create a view of that where you can modify the column names. You can edit the data so that when it's presented to a person, they see what you want them to see, and they see like the column names and things like you want them to see. So that's what I'm going to do inside of here. All right. Now, I could, again, spend 3 days on just this one tool and how significant it is and how awesome it is. But I'm going to show you just some simple things so you know it can be done. I want you to pay attention as I'm going through it to this right-hand side, okay? This is the applied steps, which is really cool because notice it says change. It says it went to the source, it promoted the headers, so it took care of that first line that was inside of my CSV document and assumed that they were headers and went ahead and did that for me. That was awesome. Okay, and then down here it changed the type. I don't know what type it changed, but I'm gonna leave it because it did it and it's okay. But then let's say that I came up here and I thought, you know, I really need to get rid of this column, so just gonna right-click on it. Okay, and I just want to get rid of this bad boy and delete him. So I'm just going to remove him, but you'll see the other stuff I can do. Duplicate this column, remove all the other columns. So what if I click the wrong button here, right? I can add column from example, some other places that I have, remove all the duplicates that are in this column. So you can really go through and manage some stuff. Like, for example, someone might give you an Excel document that has categories in one of the columns, And those categories are, you know, the first one's one category, the second row has another category, the third row has a different category, and then further down, they're like 90 rows with one category and so forth. But you can extract that column and say, hey, could you just tell me the unique values inside of there so that I can then make another table from that with just the unique categories in it. So there ended up being only 10 categories out of the 2,000 rows that you had. That's pretty cool stuff. So you can do all that transformation inside of here. So I'm going to remove this on accident. Oh no, I removed it. And then over here on the right-hand side, you'll see it kept track of that for me. So it's keeping step by step what I did along the way, so that even if I get 5 steps down into it and I think, you know what, I'm going a wrong direction, there was an easier way to do this, I can just undo those along the way. Because again, I'm not doing anything to the underlying data source, I'm just making a query in the background. So that's pretty cool. So I didn't want that to happen, so I'll go ahead and click that button, and now that column is back. I did, however, want to get rid of all of these columns, all the way up to here. I don't need any of those guys. So remove columns. Okay, they are now gone. Okay, this one right now is called name. This one right here is called ST name, but I kind of like that to have like a space in it, or even say state instead. Okay, boom. Now I've renamed that column. Awesome. And it's keeping track of it on the right-hand side. Rename the column. And then imagine I went through and changed all these to actually say what their values are. So I'm just going to change this one to, come on, there you go, pop 2010. And then I'll use the 2018 one, which is probably over here on the right-hand side. Yep, there it is. Pop 2018. Okay, so I got those columns redone. Imagine I did all the rest of them for time's sake. Okay, and then I'm going to come back over here and I'm going to work on this column that we have here. So I'm just going to do what I would kind of do in Excel. Okay, I click on it. That's something I do in Excel. I come down here to text filters. Yep, no problem. And I could say, hey, where it contains, okay, or where it begins with, or it's not equal to. So you've seen these before, right? So I'm going to say where it contains county. I don't want it to actually say county, and I want to do something with it or something like that, right? So I could just click on that and I could go and force those out. But also I could say, let's split that column, right, to do something as well. So let's try that one because I think that'd be a kind of cooler example. Okay, I'm going to go split it. And these are some cool things, but this is a little bit more advanced than what you see over in Excel. At least to me it is. So I'm going to say I want to separate it by some delimiter inside of there. I'm going to split this column into 2 columns. Wait for it. There we go. And the cool enhancement that I see here that I didn't necessarily see in Excel, and you guys might know that better than I do, but I have options here to split it at the leftmost delimiter, so the first space that it finds, or the rightmost delimiter, the last space that it finds, or each occurrence, so every space that it finds. I'm going to do the rightmost delimiter because I have some words, some counties have multiple names, or 2-part names. So I'm going to click that, click OK. And I should end up with a second column. So I have name column 1 and name column 2, and there's all my county. The word county is just sitting out here, which is super cool, right? I mean, isn't that neat? Jared, that's awesome. Okay, so I'm going to change this name back to name. Actually, I'm going to call this county. Okay, I don't really need this county column, so I'm just going to delete it. And there we go. And if I messed up any of those steps and thought, oh my gosh, I need to go backwards, that's okay. You can just remove all these and go all the way backwards if you want to, or you can remove one. But if you remove one that actually did multiple things or that impacted something that came after that, you'd be in trouble. Okay, so you want to make sure you keep that in mind. So we took 30, 40 minutes to go through and just figure out how to clean up our data so that when it gets to the next stage, it looks good, it has great column names, all of that stuff. So I finished with that, and I went up here and I said, let me go ahead and close and apply that. Okay, so it's working on that. And you notice over here under fields, I don't have anything yet, but we'll see it just a second. Here they come. Now it's going out and doing some stuff. Okay, it's creating a model for me. It's loading some data into the model. It's creating everything that I need to work with. So if you have, 2 gigs of data, here's where you would find that impact. If you're pulling information over from a SQL Server database or something like that, here's where you'd feel that impact. But I'm not online right now. Okay, I'm just sitting here on my desktop. So it says, hey, I had one error. There's probably some quirky thing in one of my pieces of data. That's not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and ignore that. Okay, so over here now I see, hey, it has created all my calculation columns, my summary columns, if you will. Okay, it has my county there. There's the POP 10 and the POP 2018 that I'm going to use, and there's state that I'm going to use. And imagine if I had just cleaned up the rest of this. So here are the fields that I can now use from this table that I have. And at this point, I could have pulled in 10 tables worth of information. So I could have pulled in U.S. counties and then another one for, world trade, and figure out which counties deal with which other countries when they're doing trade. I mean, you could have do anything you want inside of here. So I have multiple tables, but what I have is one table, U.S. counties, and then I have items that are sitting here summarized. All right. Okay, so here we go. Now that I've manipulated my data, okay, I can go in, and I'm skipping a layer for some of you just for time. I could, let's say that I have, I want to do some additional information to my columns. Like I want to create a new column or create a new measure. Okay, if I want to do those things, here's that place where I would come in and do that. You'll see new measure up here, new column. Also, you see some icons over here where you can go look at the data as a table if you want to. So you can see it and see the actual data that's inside of here or what would be inside of here. We get that a chance to load. But I can see all those things inside of here, and I can add new columns, and I can create, the data showed up right before I left there. And you can see, or create new columns, combine columns. That's called, you use a language behind the scenes called DAX for that. You don't really have to use the language at all. You can point and click your way to happiness, but some of the harder things to do, you would do in a language called DAX. Okay, now, what do I have here? Great question. So I see visualizations, and then I see two icons here, and a third icon will pop up in just a second. Okay, so I go here and I say, what is it I want to put on my report? So this is my report artboard, if you will. Okay, and I'll go over here, and I'm just going to use county for just a second. I'll click on county. Okay, it checks it over here, and it comes over here, and you see it. If you can see it, it's spinning. Okay, and it's going to put some data on here for me. Now it's only going to put one thing, and you'll see what that is in just a second. It's working on it. There you go. So it said, hey, I looked at this, I saw that those counties made sense to me as far as I think I could put those inside of a map. So it chose a map to do it. It defaulted to that, okay? And you could zoom in on this map and have fun with it and do some things. Apparently there's some stuff over here that are counties, I don't know why. Okay? But I could go and say, you know what, really what I wanted I just wanted the count for those. So I'm gonna go choose a different visualization. So I have all these visualizations that I could choose, like my favorite pie chart or the exploded pie chart or the donut chart, or I have a card here. So I'm gonna click on that card. Wait for it. It's gonna switch and just give me numbers now. While that's doing that, there's some other items that I have over here. So if you are into stacked bar charts, you have that available. Okay, if you are into stacked column charts, you have that available. If you are into clustered bar charts, you have that available. And so many different things that you have. So there's line charts, all types of the new charts. And the cool thing about this is as they go on, as they continue, they actually add more of these features inside. Okay, so that should not be taking that long to change. Let's just get rid of it real quick. There we go. Let's put the card on there first. Always a second way around it, and then I'll tell it what I want in there. All right, so I have all these different visualization tools to use, but remember, they keep adding more to it. So over time, when they come out with big enhancements or the newest, latest, greatest chart shows up in the world, Microsoft copies it or figures out how to build one and plugs it inside of here. So you see that it brought back the first county, not all counties, but the first county. And so that's because over here and where I see fields properties, I can go in and manipulate this. The default for it when it brought it over was to do an aggregate called first. There's an aggregate called last, but the one that I really want is count or count distinct, right? So I'm going to use count, assuming that some of my counties might be duplicate names, and it says that I have 3,011 of those counties out there, and that's cool. Okay, so I'm going to just grab another card, plug that over here. Notice how I just clicked over here and it put it in a responsible place. You know, it said, hey, that would probably look good right under that, and it put it there. I can move it to wherever I want, but it put it in there. So I'm going to go and pick states here and see how many states it says I have. It picked the first one. Again, I'll change that to the count, and I have 48 states. We're back to the great 48. I don't know what yours two states got. got annexed or taken out or something like that. So we have some states there. My data may not be perfect. Let me just put that up front. Okay, but then I can say, hey, let me put some charts and such on here as well. So I'm just going to bring a pie chart out there. Oops, I changed that one to a pie chart. Shouldn't have done that. Sorry. There you go. Click off of that first. Now the pie chart, kind of want that guy to be up here. Just going to drop him in and make him a little bit bigger. Okay, and then I'm going to say, what do I want in there? Well, I'm going to put in the state. Okay, and then I'm going to put in 2010. And there, that doesn't look horrible. Okay, it is enough for me to see that California was the winner, right, by population for 2010. But if I try to shove too much data inside of here, it's going to look crazy. Like, look at all these little ones right here. That's not great for a report, right? So you reporting, for those who don't do a lot of reporting, reporting is all about, one, knowing your data, kind of knowing what you want to end up with, and then also knowing how to visualize that to make it look good, right? And so maybe that's not the best type of chart for that. Brittany likes these other types of charts, so I'm just going to pick this one up here. Okay, and maybe that looks better for me. And I can make that a little wider. Okay, beautiful. It has a scroll bar with it as well, so I can scroll over to see those lesser states. Oh, no, that came out wrong. See those states that have lesser populations. Okay, and then I can add another year in it. So right now I'm looking at population 2010 by state. It figured that title out for me. Okay, I didn't have to do that, so that's also nice, right? But I'm going to go ahead and add in my 2018 because I'm doing a comparison. My whole thing is to do a comparison between 2010 and 2018 to see where there's growth and where there's not. And so now I see this other color here, which is great. Okay, and I can say, hey, you know what? I like this, but Brittany looked at it and said she doesn't really like these colors that we're using. So I'm just going to go up here, and I'm not really a person who can pick out great colors. So I figured sunset might be a good one. And oh yeah, that's much better. She says no, so I'm going to go back and pick classroom, because I'm sure that's going to be okay. All right, awesome. Okay, so I'm over here and I'm grabbing all the little pieces that I want, right? So this is very good because you have control over what you want to create here. But keep in mind that just because I'm creating it doesn't mean the end user has to use all of it. I might want to just fill this up with things that are useful and then allow my end user to create dashboards from it by picking and choosing the pieces that I have, right? So let me just take this and I'm going to bring over another chart here for filter. I'm going to bring over a slicer. You guys have heard of slicers, especially if you're working in like Power Pivot and some of those types of things. Okay, and I'll bring in the states here. Okay, so I have this here, and this is probably a bad place for it, but we'll let it ride. Okay, and just by bringing that on here as a filter, now as I say, hey, I just want Alabama, okay, then I should get the rest of the page here to change. Okay, I didn't have to go and wire them up together. I can unwire them if I want to, okay, but automatically it went and created all those for me. Currently, I have this so that it only selects one at a time, but what you could do is, again, over here in your properties, you see some properties, but then this next guy right here is the formatting for it. You can go through the formatting and say, hey, what you want to do as well. And so here under items, just for example, okay, you can tell it how you want those items to look, the font size, all that kind of stuff. Here for the slicer header, do you want that on or do you want that off? Here for the selection controls, do you want single select or do you want multi-select? So if I said here, hey, I want more than one to be selected, or this is a single select, so I see that here. Okay, so now it's a radio button, but you could say, hey, I really want that multi-select, but I kind of want to have it so there's a select all option. Now I have a select all option, and I want to be able to select multiple by doing control, okay? And so I go in here and I say control Colorado, and now the rest of my report changes to accommodate for that. That's pretty cool stuff, right? So what I've done so far is I opened up Power BI Desktop. I ingested some data. I brought some data in, and then I went through and cleaned it all up by using M. Okay. At that point, I built out a report. Right. Now that I'm finished doing it all, and let me just say one extra thing before I say I'm finished. You might want to name the pages down here. It's not required, but you can. So I'll say this is my counties. Okay. And maybe I create another page behind that has a whole bunch of stuff that's state oriented. So I'm doing state summaries and such like that instead of county summaries, right? Yep. So you can have multiple pages inside of one report, and I think that is also we should consider that to be awesome. All right. So Back to counties. Okay, so let's say that I went through, I finished. So we have only a little bit of time left. I want to make it all the way up to Power BI Online. So here, I'm done. I should save it, but it's going to ask me to save once I click the Publish button. So I'm going to click the Publish button. Okay, yep, do want to save that. Okay, I'll call this Demo 3 because that's a cool name. All right, so it's doing its thing. It's working on it. They had to, legally, they had to flash the words working on it because that's a SharePoint thing. They want you to know that they're part of SharePoint, right? So I have a, so we talked earlier about the workspaces. So it's asking me, hey, which workspace do you want that to end up in? And I have this PBI demo workspace that I have. And I'll go ahead and select that. Okay, and it is doing its job. It's creating a PBIX file for me, or it actually did that when I saved, and then it is pushing that up to online. That didn't take that long, did it? Okay, and we're on a medium connection here, not like a super powered connection like you guys have, right? So here, I can open it up, or I can get quick insights as well. So I already have Power BI Online open. I'm not gonna click those links. I do wanna show you something here though. So let's say you don't know what to put here. I'm still inside of Power BI Desktop. Let's say you don't know what to put here. There's a guy up here that says, ask a question. So you can click on that. Okay, and it'll bring up an item over here. You can say, hey, I want to know, you know, states for 2018. You know, I just added something. I don't even know what I'm adding in here. So it's thinking about it, looking at my data, saying, I wonder if there's something I could suggest for Jared to make this easier for him. And he says, oh yeah, you could do this. You could do population 2018, or you could do this, that, and the other. You could do blah, 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 blah. And so when you finish with that question, it's actually going to create a chart for you down here that you would have, and you could send that up. That same thing can happen inside of Power BI Online. So let's go, whoops, wrong browser. There we go. All right, so don't need you. There you go. So back in my browser, back in Power BI, okay, we're going to go and take a look at my other workspace that I have here, which is for my demos. This is where the data ended up when I uploaded it. And you'll see over on the side here that it uploaded data set, okay, my demo 3 here, and I'll go ahead and click on that. It also uploaded the report that I had. And now it gives me the opportunity to build dashboards. We don't build the dashboards down in Power BI Desktop. We build them up here in Power BI Online. So in my demo 3 data set here, okay, this is just the data that's available. And this would allow me to go in and do the same things that I just did for you in Power BI Desktop, like add a chart here for the number of counties. Okay, it's a little bit slower depending on your connection up here. So if you have a fast connection, you're going to enjoy this. If you have a slow connection, maybe you won't enjoy it as much, right? And so same thing happened there, and I'd have to go and do the same thing that I did a minute ago, which is go change this to count. Okay, so you can see it's a little bit slower for me when I'm doing it this way. So I prefer to do all my work down in Power BI Desktop to make it fast, richer. So a user, though, could use my data set to go and create a report and then save that report, okay, by going to File, Save, and then they would have that report available right next to my other one. I'm not going to save that for time purposes. So I'm going to go to the report that I created in Power BI Desktop, which is my Demo 3 report. Don't save it. Wait for it. There you go. So it's going to get my Demo 3 report. It's going to pull it up. You'll recognize it because it's the one that I just created a minute ago. Okay, it's all beautiful, Brittany approved colors and such. So we're looking good. So I have this beautiful report that's sitting here. Now what a person's able to do when they come and look at my report is they are able to, and don't get me wrong, there's permissions and sharing and a lot of other things that have to happen. We don't have time to go through all of that. But they could come here and create a dashboard, or they could come here and add to an existing dashboard that they have. So I'm going to talk about that in a second. But there is a pin button right up here, pin visual. Okay, so I'm going to click on that. And it says, hey, Jared, do you have any existing dashboards out there already that you want to put this in? And I could say, yeah, I have one out there called JBoard, which is over here off of a completely different set of data. And I could add this piece into that dashboard. So that's huge. So the difference between your report and your dashboard is that my report is all based off of one data set, right? But when I create a dashboard, I could pick and choose from multiple reports or multiple data sets to be able to have what I want to see when I come in the morning to take a look, right? So I'm in the C-suite, you know, you want to generate a dashboard for someone who can just come in and look and see how sales are going, you know, and they want to see a particular report about it, they can drill down into it. So I'm going to go ahead and add it to a brand new dashboard, okay? And I'm going to blow your mind with a couple of things here. So let's just call this new board. We'll pin that. All right, awesome. You get some information over here about, hey, you know, this would look great in a phone. Also, you could create a dashboard for a phone view instead of for the desktop view, and that's pretty cool. I like all that. Okay, so I'm going to go out to that dashboard. Boom. Okay, and now it says, Jared, you have your dashboard here, and this is the piece that I have on it. So I brought that one piece of the puzzle over here. I didn't bring everything from that report over here. I just brought this. So I'm the executive, you know, I'll make this bigger since the only thing I'm gonna have on my dashboard, right? And so I'm the executive, I'm taking a look at it and I'm thinking, you know, Colorado, how'd they get those numbers there for Colorado? That doesn't make sense to me. So I would like to be able to right click on this and go to it, right? But when you're at the dashboard level, what you wanna be able to do, what you're gonna do is you'll notice that I get my pointer, I'm gonna click on this report, click on this piece of the report, it's gonna take me down to the actual report. Okay, so I come in the morning, I see all my totals and my KPI, I click on one of those and I end up in the report. And then I can come over here and look at it and say, well, how did that happen? And I can right click on this data here and say, oh, could you show me the records for that, or show me the data for that? Or could you include these items or exclude these items? Or could you analyze this for me so that I can take a look at it from a different perspective, right? So I'm gonna click here on show data. It's gonna widen that out for me and say, oh yeah, Jared, here's the actual columns that went along with that, and this is where I got that data from. That's pretty cool stuff, right? So I hear you applauding for that, and I think that's cool as well, right? So I've got that. I'm going to go back to the report. Okay, so I mentioned a couple of things while I was over here in my dashboard. Okay, so here again, I get that same ask a question, right? So I'll show you that in just one second. I'm going to show you over here that you have this web view, so I could say, hey, what does this look like inside of my phone? Okay, yep. I'm not sure why we get that message, because you have to click on it to get to the next thing. This is what it would look like inside of my phone. I can deal with that. That looks awesome inside of my app or inside of a mobile browser. Boom, we're good to go. So I like that a lot. So I'll go back. Okay, and I just have two more things that I want to show you. Okay, so I'm going to take you to a report that has more information inside of it. Okay, wait for that. Back to my samples. There we go. And I'll go back to this retail analysis where we started. This is where we began. Okay, Brittany's giving me the signal. We're almost out of time, so I'm going to make this fast. So inside of here, Brittany, what's a question you might want to know about this data?
Let's look at sales by stores, so we can see what store is doing.
All right.
Performing highest.
So I'm going to type in here sales by store, and you can see it's trying to give me help along the way. So if you have a super fast connection, this is great. Slower connections, you're kind of like, okay, you know, let me bear with it, I think. By store. There you go. It actually found store for me as I was typing. Okay, and you can see it's trying to help me along the way because it's spelled store wrong, because Jared doesn't know how to spell. There we go. Okay, and it gives me this beautiful report by itself. I didn't make this. This wasn't in the original report that we were looking at. Okay, it just went out and said, hey, you know, I think a good way to look at that might be this. And that is super cool. Okay, that is your environment trying to help you out, try to analyze this data for you. That is super nice. So hopefully what you've seen today, let's go back over to our slides, is how you can work inside the Power BI environment, how you can work with Power BI Desktop to consume information, okay, to pull it in, manipulate it, get it all prepped and ready to go up to your cloud version of Power BI or to your Power BI report server instance. Okay, and once you get it there, how people can still continue to manipulate it, and then they can create their own beautiful, nice reports after the fact. Okay, and then once they've done that, they can create dashboards, and you can have all these beautiful dashboards that people can come in and look at, whether they're on their cell phone or whether they're online. And hopefully we've also shown that I can see those over inside the SharePoint environment on a SharePoint page as well. Okay, and I can also use Microsoft Flow to integrate with this. So imagine using the whole suite. Use Microsoft Forms to go out and get some data. That data comes back and it drops into a SharePoint list, and then, Microsoft Flow takes that data and moves it to a SharePoint list, and then you wire up your Power BI report to just read that SharePoint list. Wow, that's a lot of stuff you can do. Some things we haven't talked about. Licensing, we haven't talked about like what happens when you need to have something that runs on a schedule, so it goes back and gets the data again or does data refreshes. We haven't talked about any of that. We haven't talked about the finer points of creating reports and things you should look out for and things you don't have to look out for. So there's still a lot more sitting here that we could discuss. We just don't have enough time for today. But hopefully you guys really appreciate that we are trying to get information out to you, some good information that you guys can have to continue to work or to build inside of these beautiful Microsoft environments that they've given us. So powerbi.microsoft.com, or you can go to, or just app.powerbi.com, or just look up Power BI and go to powerbi.com, and then do these things. Go and download a Power BI Desktop, find a data source to play with, manipulate it with M, create your report, upload it to Power BI Online, create some dashboards, and then consume those reports.
All right, well, thank you everyone for joining today. I just want to give you the last bit of information. On the screen here, you can see my email address and my phone number. Please, like I said, if you had any questions along the way, make sure to email me and we'll get you an answer back. Just so you know, we do these webinars every month. We have a new topic every month. Next month, I believe it's July 25th, we're talking about Microsoft Forms, Planner, and Stream. These are really, they're three really nice tools in Office 365. And also we have a training class coming up July 23rd and 24th for Power BI if you're wanting to learn more. And as a thank you for joining today, anybody that signs up in your organization, we're offering a good discount. So go ahead and email me if you're interested in that training class, and I will get you set up for that as well. Thank you everyone for joining today, and you'll be receiving the recording of this webinar here soon. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Have a great day.